ever felt excluded for an unfair reason? Beatrice is a powerful and strong young woman who decided to get on this stage today to raise her voice for a community that is often victim of social stigma. Let's welcome Beatrice.
Pride. What do you associate with this word? Well, I'm guessing most of you will think of those obnoxious coworkers who just cannot admit they're wrong. Or maybe the intellectuals among you will think of Dante's Divina Commedia, where the proud are damned to carry a heavy rock on their back, punished for their sin. However, here's what pride makes me think of. An ocean of extravagant colors, over-the-top clothes, crazy flags nobody even knows the meaning of. A multitude of people united not in spite of their differences, but precisely because of them. That's just crazy, right? What kind of powerful magic would be able to make this possible? Well, the answer might surprise you, but everyone in this crowd is marching to manifest their pride. And I felt that captivating energy myself. In fact, if you zoom in on this picture, you can actually see my face among all the others. And zooming even further, you will notice the flag I had painted on my cheek. The same flag I was forced to wash off as soon as I got home that day, out of fear of my parents' reaction. But fear did not stop me from raising my voice alongside these people who collectively rejected for centuries, found the strength to fight for their right to be themselves. That's really impressive, don't you think? They managed to be proud of their identity, no matter how much hate they were getting in return, therefore freeing themselves from the social stigma they were relegated on. They even managed to be proud of those same words that were being used to offend them. For example, they reclaimed the slur queer, which means weirdo, for themselves, making it empowering instead of humiliating. More than that, they coined new labels to define themselves instead of letting others choose for them. Today, they're known with their self-given name, LGBT community, which is short for lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender. However, their story begins with the history of mankind itself. Archaeologists have found representation of LGBT couples in 4,000 years old Egyptian tombs. And it is no mystery, at least for us, students at the Liceo Classico, that the Greeks and the Romans made no gender distinction when it came to love. Throughout history and across cultures, LGBT people have always existed, but they haven't always been accepted. For centuries, belonging to one of these four categories actually meant having to hide because you risked your life. To this very day, homosexuality alone is still illegal in 72 countries around the world. In 8 of them, you can be punished with death penalty for what is called unnatural offense. To which I'd argue, how can love be unnatural? Here's why it's very important to have a label to define yourself. Because how can you fight for a cause if it has no name? And if my words don't convince you, perhaps my own experience will. You see, people usually start exploring their identity during adolescence. And of course, I was no exception. But as I dig deeper and deeper within myself, a whole new world of possibilities opened up to me. I started to realize that as much as we would like it, people hardly ever fall into strict black and white categories. Having a word to describe my feelings meant I could share my experience with others, even if I didn't fit in the standard. Well, to be honest, being open about this kind of topic, or coming out of the closet, as we like saying, still requires a lot of courage. And I've tried it on my skin before. I've had friends who stopped talking to me, people who thought I was some kind of weird pervert, yet I'm one of the lucky ones. And the data tells a similar story. To this day, in Italy, up to this day, 662 people have been victims of homophobic and transphobic acts in the last 6 years. That means roughly a victim every 3 days. This is the consequence of discrimination, verbal harassment, or even physical aggression, the kind of consequences, well, let's say unpleasant consequences, that I'm subjecting myself to by being on this stage today. Unfortunately, many of these aggressions actually happen among family members. Way too many people, often teenagers, like me, are forced out of the house because of unwelcoming parents. Hence the shocking rate of LGBT young people who experience homelessness. Well, studies have shown that while LGBT youth represents around 7% of the total population, they make up for more than 25% of the young homeless. Reasons are various. Some of them are straight up kicked out of the house, but many endure emotional and physical abuse from their very family members until they either manage to escape, ending up in the streets, or they don't, and become yet another name on a news report that won't even make it on the front page. These extreme cases aren't uncommon. However, everyday discrimination is often more subtle than that, though it can play a huge role on someone's well-being. Being denied a job or a mortgage, receiving a rude treatment from a public official, or even being kicked out of a restaurant while you're out on a date. All these things can add up, explaining why LGBT people are 2 times more likely to experience depression during their lifetime and 3 times more likely to attempt suicide. Imagine how it feels to be treated as monsters, as criminals, simply for falling in love. Imagine how it feels to be hated for your very existence. But maybe you don't need to use your imagination. It surely has happened to you to be the social outcast in a situation. So you can know the feeling of actual physical pain that comes from being excluded. What can you do about it? I at least hope you're wondering. Well, my answer to that would be fight ignorance. Ignorance is the root of prejudice. Get informed. Learn everything you can about this community that has been treated as monsters for so long, as predators, as criminals. Don't let bias stop you. Most of all, and I'm sure it will happen, if someone next to you decides to open up with you and come out of the closet, show them all of your support and be proud with them. Thank you.